In today's video, I'm sharing some primitive farmhouse country Christmas DIY decorations. I'd like to welcome you all to Creative by Nature DIY and Decor. My name is Donna. So for today's projects, I am using two Dollar Tree tabletop mini trees, and I'm flattening them both out on one side, as you can see here. This will create a fuller tree, and it will be actually quite reasonably priced. So I just took the bottom off one of these trees, and then I am going to be putting them together off-centered, and I'll be generously applying some hot glue. You can see here that there's some like little grooves and nubs along the trunk of our trees, and I'm kind of locking them together. And that will just help make the tree fluffier and just join together evenly as well. So here I'm just generously applying glue. I have also seen some people use some of those ties, like garland ties, as well as some zip ties. Just use whatever you can get. I just decided to use some glue. So now that our two trees are put together, I am going to fluff it up, and you can see how much fuller it is already. I'm taking one of the long stems on the bottom, and I'm going to be wrapping it around the base here. That way here it'll hide all the mechanics on the bottom. I am leaving the base of that one tree on. I will need that to use the stand. So I set my tree aside and I dug into my stash of fabrics, and I pulled out some fabrics that I have coffee dyed. Now, if you haven't coffee dyed, let me know down below and I can do a full tutorial for you, but it's pretty easy. You're just soaking your fabrics in coffee and allowing it to dry either air dry or in the oven. I'm cutting down my strips of fabric into approximately 1-inch strips, 1-inch wide strips, and then I'll be cutting them down into smaller pieces, as we are actually going to be creating a fabric rag garland. Oh, it turned out so good. I'm so excited to share this with you. It was so much fun to create. So here I am just cutting my fabric strips into smaller usable pieces. I'm using some jute twine as my base, and I'm just tying a loop on one end, and then I'm going to be taking my fabric strips and tying them on. So I'm just going to be doing a single tie knot, and you could do a double knot if you'd like, but I found that this was actually pretty sturdy, so I just went with the one, and then I am going to fill up my jute twine with all my fabric strips. So I'm not creating any specific pattern. I'm just mixing up all my different colors and just filling it up until I make about a 4-foot long garland. You can make it really nice and full like I did here, or you could just sparsely add your fabric strips along your jute twine. Okay, so now that we're done with the garland, I'm moving on to the next project, and I dove into my stash of some birch bark. I tried to find the pieces that were the flattest. I also printed out some star templates. I just got mine off of Canva. You could hand draw yours if you'd like. And here, as you can see, I'm just tracing around our stars onto the birch bark. I have two different sizes. One is going to be our tree topper, and then the other ones are going to be ornaments. Here I am just going to cut them out with some scissors. So I forage for my own birch bark. An alternative, if you can't get any, would be to use some scrapbook paper and mount it on some thick cardstock or chipboard or cardboard. So now here I am just going to be working on my smaller star birch bark ornaments. So I have all my stars cut out, and I want to turn the smaller ones into ornaments, so I need to punch a hole into one of the tips. Here I have a crocodile big chomper or big bites, sorry, and it's put out by We Are Memory Keepers, and I'm going to be using this to punch my hole. Now, if you want to know where you can get it, you can get it on Amazon. I have a link to my Amazon favorite store listed down in my video description. Here I have my hole punched out, and now I am using some jute twine to create my ornament hanger. I'm just forming a loop, passing the loop through the back side, pull my 2 strands through the loop on the other side and pull them through, then tie a knot on the top and you have a hanger. Here are my stars all ready to go. You can create as many as you'd like. All right, so now I'm going to be creating some felt hearts. I've got 2 different shapes and sizes of hearts, and I'm tracing them onto 2 layers of felt, as you can see here. And I'm using just a black pen to trace around them, and then I'll be using my scissors to cut through both layers. So you can see my pen marks on the one side, so I just flip the pieces over and then the pen marks will be on the inside. So I did select one more color, but it turns out I didn't like how it looked with the birch bark, so I didn't use that one. So I just stuck with the yellow and the green. Here I am now choosing some embroidery floss for my stitching. So you can use, of course, any colors you'd like. I am just going with a green and a golden color for my stitching. And now I'm going to thread my needle and tie a knot on one end of our thread, and then I will start to stitch. So I'm just going to be doing a basic running stitch, and I am going to have the knot on the outside. Now, there are some ways that you can hide your knot, but for what I'm doing, I don't need to hide my knots, so that part is up to you. There's definitely some other videos showing how to do stitching, so you could definitely look those up if you're interested in how to hide your knot. So I'm just going to stitch along the edge until I get near the top on the opposite side, and then I'll show you what to do next. All right, so I have my opening left, as you can see here, and I'm going to be using some fiber fill, and I'm going to stuff our little heart just to create kind of like a little mini pillow look. They're so cute. So I'm actually curious. So I like lots of different styles for Christmas time. I love primitive, but I also love shabby chic and farmhouse and just so many different styles. I would love to know what your favorite style is by leaving me a comment down below. So I have my stuffing in, and I'm going to finish stitching up my heart. If you need to add more fill, go ahead and do so before you completely close up your heart. So once your heart is all stitched up, I then go and make sure that I end on the same side as I started. And I am going to tie off the 2 strands together, as you can see here, and then trim off any of the loose ends. So I went into my stash of trims and ribbons, and I selected this cream colored trim, and I'm going to use it to create my ornament hanger. So I'm just creating a loop. I'm just measuring how long of a piece I need here. And then I'm going to use some hot glue to attach it. Here I'm just showing you how I'm creating my loop. I'm just crisscrossing the bottom, and then I will add some hot glue onto where our knot is, and the trim will cover that all up. So next I'm just creating a simple little bow out of our trim. You could definitely add a button, or I have also added just a little piece of fabric, the same fabrics that I used in our garland. And just feel free to create these any way you'd like. They are so cute. I actually really enjoyed making these. Here you can see the selection that I had made for my little tree. So I'm using a few other things to decorate my tree. I've got these starlights that I had DIY'd. I will leave the link for that video down in my description box below. And I'm also using some burlap, some pip berries that I had in my stash. And I'm also going to be using some twigs that I had foraged from the forest as well. All right, so I have my tree all set up, and now I'm going to start by adding the garland that I made and wrap it around our tree and tuck it into it. This will create a really nice full look for our tree. If you want to add some more mini lights, then this is definitely the time to do it. As I won't be showing that part, I'm not adding fairy lights, I'm just using my starlights. But if you want a really heavily lit tree, then I definitely suggest adding those now. Next, I am adding my birch bark star ornaments and tree topper. I just place the large star on the top and bend the wire around it, and then place my stars throughout. So I must say I am so thankful that I am able to go out in the forest and collect some supplies to create my own homemade ornaments. And I hope that you are able to do that as well. It is definitely something that is really fun to do with the family. I take my family in the forest and we collect pine cones and branches and bark and all kinds of fun stuff. Okay, so now I'm adding my felt hearts that I had made. These definitely have a primitive vibe to them. I love how these turned out, and I really did enjoy creating them. They were really relaxing. I sat in the front of the TV and I just stitched them all together. It is a very easy craft to make. I think it would also be a really neat idea to create a gift set that people could use to decorate their tree. So now I am adding the starlights. So I am being very careful with how I place these, as I don't want any of these to be hiding behind anything. So I'm going to just be bending the wire around some branches and tuck them behind the ornaments and garland. That will hide the wire, and then I just make sure that I bend the wire enough so that the starlights will show and aren't hidden away. These starlights turned out so good. I was so excited when I discovered how to make them look like those primitive starlights that you can see in stores. I've always loved those starlights. I remember even as a kid, I loved them and I thought they were just so cool. So I'll just continue to wrap all three of my strands around the tree, and then I place the battery pack at the bottom. So here's a close-up of what the starlights look like. Are they just so pretty? I love them. All right, so now I'm adding the classic primitive farmhouse country style touch, and that is pip berries. I got these pip berries from Dollar Tree, and they are the darker red. I still think they carry them this year. I'm not totally sure. I haven't been in the store for a while, but you can definitely order them online. I would check out other craft stores as well to see what they have. So I'll just continue to wrap the pip berries around and just bend the wire in place until I get the desired look I like. So now for the twigs. I cut the twigs down into a more manageable size that was suitable for this tabletop tree. And all I do is just stick the branch into our tree. There's no exact way to do this. It's just pretty much you have to just make sure that you've got your branches down to the appropriate size. You can see that these branches have a really pretty red color. I have to say, I am so in love with this primitive farmhouse country Christmas tree. It looks so beautiful, all set up with other primitive decorations. I encourage you to try this out. It was so much fun, and it's definitely a great project to do with family, friends, or a crafting group that you may have. I really enjoyed putting this together for you all. So as always, I would absolutely love to know if you enjoyed any of these projects or if you plan on making any of these decorations as well. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. I had such a good time, and you are all truly a blessing to me. If you're looking for some more Christmas inspiration, you can tap on the link here to the right, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!